Listen, that's why.
Okay, perfect.
That's how it keeps us
Okay, okay, there.
Okay, is it working? Are we on air? Oh, yeah, we're on air. All right. All right. You ready?
I'm never ready.
Today is July 5th, 2019. My name is Lori Gill, and you're listening to The iMore Show. And I totally messed the beginning of that up, but that's okay. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. That's how the rest of that's supposed to go. Joining me this week is the lovely and talented Georgia Dow. How are you doing, Georgia?
I'm doing lovely.
Wonderful. Did you have any fun plans earlier this week?
Today we're going to Spider-Man.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
And that wonderful golden singing voice you just heard is Renee Ricci. Welcome to the show, Renee.
Hello, hello, hello. Just like a Spider-Man.
Your ears are not bleeding.
In the thief of night at the speed of
light.
I forget now. Like a streak of light, he arrives just in time.
I don't even remember that song that well. I remember Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. But, actually, I always sing
everything. He remembers everything.
Every verse.
Okay, maybe not everything. Maybe not everything.
The song I remember is Spider Pig does whatever Spider Pig does.
I'm looking forward to it because Michael Keaton was so good in the last one. I have high hopes now.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
The last movie, he was so good. Michael Keaton. Yes.
No spoilers.
And whatever the last movie is that he made, he was so good in it.
Yeah. Yes, whatever that was.
Well, he went from being the Birdman to the Vulture. I think that was key.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Spoilers?
For people who haven't seen the Birdman, screw those people.
I don't know. I suffered through that movie. I was the only one.
Oh, I loved that movie. I'm surprised you didn't like it.
Really didn't like it. Really.
Georgia didn't like the camera spinning around Michael Keaton so much.
I was just
Stop spinning around him. I need to get my bearings.
Too arty for you.
I don't mind some artistic movies, but that one I think was just a little bit too much into itself.
Yeah.
That was what I felt. Again, I might just not be deep enough.
Yeah.
Scratch the surface. What do you find?
More surface.
All right, let's get started talking about Apple stuff.
Okay.
I think probably the most exciting thing to come out this week came out yesterday, which is a rumor that we might be getting back the scissor keyboard. Renee, you did a vector about this.
Sorry, I almost punched Renee in the face.
Yeah. How you again?
Let's talk about it a little bit. So why, first of all, let's go through what the actual rumor is, and then let's talk about why would Apple do something like that when they've been so bullish and so straight, like, let's do this with the butterfly keyboard. What's going on with that?
So, I mean, like, there's a couple levels to break down here. One, the rumor itself is from Guoming Chi, who's got really good sources in the supply chain. And I won't get into all the illicit methods with which people, like casing companies and whatnot, pull information out of the supply chain. But let's just say there's an awful lot of money involved in finding out what Apple's doing and when. And Guo's company is really good at surfacing all that information. So he's saying that starting with the 2019 MacBook Air, Apple is going to go back to a scissor, not the previous scissor switch, but a new scissor switch that uses some of the technology from the Butterfly, like the glass fibers, which last longer than the plastics did, to sort of make a hybrid uber super scissor switch keyboard. And it's interesting they said the MacBook Air because that was just updated last year, which means that Apple, it's really hard to put a new keyboard in an old machine because everything is such tight tolerances. But that probably means they designed that machine with this keyboard in mind, and the keyboard just wasn't ready yet. And then the other rumor, which is even more confusing, is that he says it's going to go into a 2020 partial update for the MacBook Pro. And most rumors have said we're getting a new MacBook Pro, a 16-inch MacBook Pro. So does that mean that it's going to go into that MacBook Pro, not when it launches this year, but when it launches next year? So there'll be a newer MacBook Pro. Does it mean they're going to hold off on releasing the new MacBook Pro until next year? Does it mean the current MacBook Pros are going to get them, which is even less likely because the whole thing is confusing. But to answer your other question, it takes a long ass time to make a keyboard. Like for us, it's just snap fingers, new keyboard. But Greg Koenig, who's a well-known industrial designer on Twitter, said that it took, like he was amazed they were doing it this fast, that it usually takes around 2.5 years at most to ramp up on a new keyboard. And that's designing it, prototyping it, testing it, going back, fixing it, testing it again, getting all the components, the machines that make the components, getting it into production. It's a long process. And that means that he thinks Apple must have spun on a dime when the old keyboard started failing and started working on this new keyboard. And this is the absolute fastest they could get it to market. And everything they've done between then and now is, let's just try to fix this as much as we can till the new one's out. Let's just try, third generation, throw some membrane on it, change the materials. Oh my God. And then finally they're like, phew, we got the new one ready to ship.
Yeah.
So Renee, why do you think that they haven't, like, and again, we can go through Apple's secrecy, but like, why haven't they gone like, we are going to fix this, make it better, don't stress? Because there's nothing more stress. So, okay, I'll go through my own keyboard experience. I lost the space key.
I just now started having that issue with my keyboard just 2 days ago. Yeah,
it's the weirdest thing to send. And I'm running into, I just send Renee long running, like, it's not even a run-on sentence. It's just like, just one word. Oh, sentence that is one word. And that stresses people out. Why doesn't Apple for this thing, when they're going to work on it, is it because they're worried about expectational debt? If they don't actually come out with it next year, people are going to be even more angry if they say we're going to work on it?
Yeah, there's like several components. One is that they've had bad luck with getting things out. So I think they don't want to pre-announce something until it's ready to ship. But also, nobody would buy existing stuff if they thought there was a new anything new was coming out.
That's a brilliant point.
And some people say, well, screw that. These keyboards suck, man. You shouldn't be selling them. But like, there are people who prefer these I think these keyboards should be changed. I've always said I like them better. I personally prefer them.
Sorry, can you go through that? Because that always, I never know why you like these better. And you do mention it all the time. And I'm not sure why. What do you like better about the flatter, less feedback keyboards?
So, because I have a lot of like problems with my fingers and RSI and stuff. And so the less travel, the better for me. But also they're flat and they're stable. When I go back to the old keyboard, they feel like loosey-goosey. Like if I don't hit them dead center, they go sideways and they go up and down and they flatten out too early. So there are aspects of these that I really like. And if you look at the comments of my video that I did about this yesterday, there's a bunch of people going, oh, stop crying about it. The new keyboards are better. And like, I don't agree with that. I personally like them better, but it's like that Doctor Strange movie where she says, you have to understand the most important lesson. It's not about you. So for me,
but in this case, it is, Renee. It's about me.
No, but what I'm saying is that I prefer the new keyboard, but nobody hated the old one, and people legitimately hate the new one. So even if I like it, to me, it's not tenable because you can't go buy a MacBook from another company. Yeah. Only Apple makes MacBooks. They can't have a keyboard that half the people hate. Yeah. Even if it didn't fail, even if it was perfectly fine, you still can't have a keyboard that half the people hate.
I hated it before it failed, actually. Yes. And when I go back to my old keyboard, there's this happiness that I'm like, oh, yes, I remember it used to be like this.
Yeah, Jojo, I remember right from the get-go when the new keyboard came out, you immediately were like, nope, don't like it. Feels weird. It feels too flat. Too flat, not enough feedback. I'm a feedback,
kind of person, and I liked that. I like the feedback. I go back to my little magic keyboard. I'm like, ooh, I use one of the old, I don't even remember which computer, one of the MacBook Pros or what, I don't know what. And I'm like, oh, it's lovely.
It's so nice. Yeah, I loved the butterfly keyboard right away. I didn't actually experience much of a difference. I go back and forth between them both, and I never feel a sense of like, oh, this is weird. I'm using a different keyboard. Even Renee, even what you're saying with the Magic Keyboard or the older MacBook keyboards, you actually kind of notice the difference, like the jiggly sideways thing, which does actually happen. But to me, it's so subtle that I don't experience like a difference between the two. So I was actually surprised to hear so much negative feedback about the butterfly mechanism before the failed keyboard situation.
Hate it.
Yeah, and so even if the butterfly keyboard never failed and was 100% perfect every time in every single Mac, the fact that so many people hate the butterfly mechanism it's immediately, I think, for Apple to kind of question, okay, well, what can we do to make everybody okay with it instead of 50% of the people absolutely hating it and the rest either being indifferent or liking it. I don't think I've ever met anybody that loved the butterfly mechanism more than they loved anything else. They're either fine with it or hate it.
The weird thing, though, is that Apple is used to people hating new things. It's because the company changes things so often, or almost always feel like this is stupid. Don't do it. Like AirPods are
people
stupid.
Just don't
the
like
new trackpads
change.
are stupid.
Yeah.
Like don't take. And then, but often people go, oh no, I do like this better. And
Right.
but I think the danger in that is that Apple thinks it's going to happen every time. Like they start to think,
Yeah.
well, we've had it for 3 years. We found it's really good. We're going to give it to you, and we know you'll hate it at first, and we'll just say stick with it. And within 6 months, you're all going to love it. But the danger is those times when they are absolutely wrong, it is hard for them to hear it because they're just like, oh, we'll tweak it a little bit and then you'll love it. Oh, we'll add this and then you'll. But with this, no, there's nothing you can do with this that will make the people that hate it not hate it.
I think that's the thing, though, is that you get used to the fact that, and it's true, people don't like change.
No.
Any type of change, there's a certain amount of anxiety that comes with learning something new. Few people actually enjoy learning something that's completely different and changes their ecosphere, but it slows us down, gets us a little bit like what's happening. And because of that, we don't like that for a period of time. And so that is true. You change something that is like your living space, like your computer is now our like home area. You move it around without people's permission, they're going to be a little bit weirded out until they end up having that feeling of like, I've now reaccustomed to wherever I am. And unfortunately with this, it just ended up that more and more people were just more frustrated
like
because
after you better, right? Like they're weird. They don't have a real hinge anymore.
No,
but after a while, like who remembers that?
I don't even, does not actually bother me, or do I notice at all. And yeah, I actually thought like, no, I didn't, that was really quick for me to be able to change over. But with the keyboard, more people, then it started to fail. When you got that accustomed to the flatness and not any give, then like you end up with like a piece of like, you know, you're now writing in, you know, without an E or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you're doing things that's your productivity, now there's a huge problem because you have to smash the E. Ooh, sorry,
Yeah.
I think I just broke something. And then that slows you down. And now people are just like anger on top of anger.
I think the other problem is that Casey Johnson was one of the first people to report on it, but she did it for the outline and not for like Ars Technica. And the outline style is all, I'm ragey and I hate this, and here's 19 tweets from people who also hate it. And when she was writing for Ars Technica, it would have been, this is the problem, this is the amount of people that have it, this is what happened when we talked to the resellers and the service providers, and here's 18, and it would have been really well documented. And it is, the outline style is all internet ragey, and it makes it super easy for like Apple's going to look at, oh, these people are just haters. But when I look at like an Ars Technica article, like, oh, I think there's a well-documented problem here.
Yeah, which happens whenever you are overly reactive to something. People say that you're just being emotional, and then they dismiss it as being not a rational argument against something. So you're right, it does do a disservice, but there was just so many other people, and, you know, they knew, like at a certain point, they just kind of knew, you know, this shouldn't happen. This is not something that happens very often with any of the old keyboard. I don't know if I've ever had that happen. Like sometimes you get dust and other things.
I had to have my old keyboard. Ironically, the only time, because I just pop. Don't do this at home.
Don't do this.
Do not listen to me. I
But
pop the keys off and I clean them and I put them back, and they almost always work.
it worked for my space key.
Yeah.
Renee, I brought it to Renee as my
I pop it off, I compress air it, and because I don't have the time to wait 4 days in an Apple.
and it was awesome.
So the only time it didn't work was a pre-butterfly key, a scissor key MacBook Pro. The E key stopped working, and I couldn't clean it or fix it, and they had to replace the entire case and Logic and keyboard and top case. Like took 4 days under Apple Care. I didn't have to pay for it, but I still lost it for 4 days.
Right. Yeah.
So
and that's the hard part. I think I like me right now in the same situation. I did take my MacBook Pro in. I have the 2016 Touch Bar model. I did take it in. I did get it serviced. They did like the step 1 cleaning version of it, and then said, if it happens again, just bring it back. And we've got a report that shows that you've already been in once. And it happened again, same double click on the I key. And now just yesterday, for the first time, I had an issue with the space bar just absolutely not working. I had to like you were saying, like mash it down really hard to get it to do anything. I restarted my computer, and that for some reason, it worked after I restarted my computer.
No single explanation, because some people were saying it's not the dust under the key. Because one of the theories was that they did so much to try to keep dust out that if dust gets in, it can't get out again. But then someone said that doesn't explain everything. It might be that the domes, because they switched from rubbery plastic domes to metal domes, which they thought would last longer. But it might be that when they distort and can't go back. But that doesn't explain that when you do clean them, start working again sometime.
No, it could, because then maybe you like re-pop the dome back out by the air going
I don't know if it
underneath
can re-pop back out though, because it's metal. I don't know if it does.
Oh, they're metal domes.
Yeah.
No,
But and then sometimes like you reboot it and it works, and that sounds like software. So
Right.
it's so confounding.
So if someone has their keys are not working, and they're not going to, of course, don't do the pop your keyboard out and then use a compressed air machine.
Apple will not help you if you
don't do it. Don't do that. But if they have it, they bring it to an Apple. If they don't have Apple Care,
so everybody has. Apple made an extended program where everybody with these keyboards basically is covered for 4 years. Whether you bought it right away or you bought it now.
So as long as like four
everyone
years will cover everyone
Plus,
that has it. Okay, fair.
And you can also try and do 24-hour turnaround now if they can.
And if I recall, they recently extended. It wasn't every Mac with the butterfly mechanism until recently. They went ahead and extended it to like literally any Mac that has the butterfly keyboard is now part of this umbrella of the keyboard warranty. So they're kind of
great.
Well, so
it is.
People reacted differently. Like what Apple wanted to do, my understanding is that even if you bought a brand new one, they would cover it for you. And some people, and what they wanted to do was say, you can buy this and not worry about it, because even if you don't get Apple Care, we'll still take care of you for 4 years. Other people are like, oh, that just means it's going to fail. You know, they're admitting the defeat before it even starts.
Like some people are just bitter though. It's wonderful. Apple, like, they'll take care of you. Like that's their admission of like, this was on us, and we're not going to penalize you for being able to have it.
Well, it's just like, we think we fixed it, but we know that you're super nervous about it. We want to take the nervousness out of the equation.
Yeah. And if
there is a problem, we'll cover you.
That sentiment, I remember when they first had like they included like the brand new MacBook Air or whatever with that kind of program, and there was some blogs on the internet that were like, Apple admits to failure by including these new MacBook Airs with the warranty. It's like, you would be angry if they didn't include it, because it's the butterfly mechanism, which is known to have some amount of failure rate. So, if you're selling a brand new MacBook Air that from 2018, and you're not including that in the keyboard replacement program or what keyboard repair program, then a bunch of people are going to be like, well, how dare you not include these brand new ones? But instead, Apple did the right thing, which is to say, your keyboard's probably fine, but to make you feel better, we're going to put yours on the list too, just in case something goes wrong. And then the internet blows up with like, Apple knows that their keyboards suck, and that's why these are included. Like, you can't please people. It's ridiculous sometimes.
It kind of drives views, right? But it just bothers me when someone's showing accountability and then they get knocked for it. That really upsets me, because then it makes people going to be like, you're going to be quieter about accepting responsibility if people are going to then hit you for being responsible and making sure that you're taking care of people that are having a problem with something. Now, if you're going to bring in your MacBook, should you back it up before you do? What is the process that you always do?
Always.
You do a repair.
Okay, fair. Yeah. Even for the keyboard, back it up just in case.
What if the store explodes? While you keep in there.
That's a terrible thing to bring up, but
this went dark really fast.
I mean, you always want to back up of yourself, because you never know. What if someone drops another computer? Like you just never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. Anything could cause a problem. You could, lose it on your way to the Apple Store.
Yeah.
That's true.
So always back
it up, and then okay.
Yeah.
The thing that so I tweeted this week, and I meant this because the big story from last week was Johnny Ive leaving that we talked about, but there were so many over the weekend. Another profile came out in the Wall Street Journal, which sort of, and the Wall Street Journal for the last couple of years have been like beleaguered Apple with their failing iPhone 10, with their, they're not selling the iPhone 10R, even though Apple says it's a bestseller, whatever. And they're like, oh, there's all these problems with Johnny Ive. And it was weird to see the reactions, because a bunch of reporters who, like, in my opinion, should be fact checking this, where they're like, no, go read this. It's amazing. Look at this quote. They really got him in this sentence. And then a bunch of other ones were like, this doesn't seem factually accurate to us. And that dichotomy really struck me. I ended up tweeting that negativity isn't honesty, but a lot of times it seems like the more negative you are in a review, the more people think you're being honest about it. And also, cynicism isn't intelligence. but the more often like you're hating on things, people tend to think that you're being smart about it. And it really struck me with this, and I loved Matthew Panzarino from TechCrunch's take, where he said, okay, this article basically says that Johnny has shipped crap products for the last 5 years, but Apple is doomed without him. And if you think those two statements are mutually exclusive, then you have eyes.
Yeah, that was a great segue, Renee, by the way, that segueing into these Tim Cook's backlash, his open statement of the absurdity of the Wall Street Journal article, which again, like there's that exactly what you're saying. There's this sort of sentiment that, and this has happened to me a lot. If I ever review a product or a software program and I have nothing but a glowing review for it, I immediately get comments from people saying, you're just a shill for this corporation, and they paid you to do this. Like, just because I think it's an absolutely fantastic product and I found nothing wrong with it, or at least what I found wrong with it wasn't significant enough to like take off a point for it, you now think that I'm somehow being paid for it. It just doesn't make sense. Like, how do we live in a world where like nothing but negative feedback gives you more?
If you'd have trashed it, nobody would have said anything.
Exactly. They would have said, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I know what's good and I know what I don't like. And in this case, I didn't find anything I didn't like about it. And I think that's okay. I think we should celebrate those kind of experiences when we're happy and enjoy something and think it's doing its job, or when we are celebrating the departure of Johnny Ive and what a great future he has going forward, and how Apple is going to do absolutely great without him and grow, their design company. And like, why does this happening have to become a negative thing? And then therefore the only reporting that is legitimate, I'm using air quotes for anyone listening, are the ones that are negative about it, even though fact checking,
even if they're wrong,
research,
even if they are wrong about it, they can be negative. People will think it's cool, which is a frustrating thing for me.
And then I think that happens mostly for Apple, right? Like that, there's a huge backlash against people that are pro Apple.
Just this morning, the same Wall Street Journal put out an article saying a profile of Jeff Williams saying, "Can he help out?" or something about Apple's next big thing. Like, how often do you see articles about what's Samsung? People are panicking. What's Samsung's next big thing? What's Amazon's next big thing? What's like name a company, and nobody is worried about their next big thing, or they are calling them doomed or beleaguered to the extent that Apple is.
Yeah. I think that comes down to the fact of Apple. I think that people see Apple, one, as being, because it's such a huge company, it's so profitable, it's so popular, that people start to hate on things that are too popular. I think that they see people that love Apple products as being elitist. They, are the rich people of handling, tech, and think of themselves as better than people that use other products. And so it feels good to knock that down, just to knock it down, not because there's any facts to that. There's, or even if there is facts to that, it feels good either way. And so if there's a little tiny mistake, they jump on it, because Apple makes errors. Every single company does, but they really do try to fix it, take accountability, and deal with that. And so when the times that they slip up, everyone kind of jumps on that, because a lot of people get enjoyment in watching something great fall down. Which, says something about, I guess, as your comment on cynicism.
And there's also something to consider, which is that Apple presents itself, it markets itself as being like this, like, our design is so good. And so then you immediately get a sense of like, well, your design is so bad that your antennas don't work. So there, I even feel that way. I even have a sense of the miraculous get off your high horse, Apple.
Magical comment did that to me when they said this is magical. I think, Lori, I went, oh, yeah, no, you shouldn't have done it. That was
saying Shazam and turning into a superhero is magical.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, you're not magical.
I don't even remember what it was for. Was it for the case?
It was Steve Jobs with a magical and revolutionary device.
Yeah.
Again, though, they did it more recently. I think that it might have been Ives actually that said another.
It feels
some
magical.
some other comment like that, and I just went, oh no, this is going to be
magic. Magic didn't make this device. Yeah,
Avada Kedavra, that's magic. Putting something.
Stop saying that. You're going to kill somebody.
ASIO Firebolt. That's magic.
Yeah.
Oh, I got hit by a broom.
But so like I can actually understand why. So people who are, let's call ourselves Apple fans or Apple fanboys, Apple fangirls, like you can use that in a negative, but I embrace it because I do love Apple products. I love everything about what they have, the design of their devices and the software that goes along with it. I think they do a great job, and that's why I use Apple products. You don't hear a lot of people who are Apple fans complaining about how dumb or bad or crappy Android is, other than things that have to do with privacy. Like we talk a lot about how these other tech companies are
because we also
pretty.
use a ton of Google services. Like
we also use.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like, the new Samsung phone or the new Pixel, like you don't hear a lot of Apple people going like, "Oh, that's dumb and it's stupid, and it's ugly, and look where they put
Samsung sheep."
Right. There's no such thing as, like a Google sheep or whatever, but
doesn't that go with the I'm not just going to get, I'm going to send a whole bunch of people hating me. I'm just not going to say
but I think that's what I'm going toward is that we just happen to be on the side of Apple. Yeah. So we're not complaining about a bunch of Android things because we're like, oh, well, I like Apple things and that's good enough. But then people who like Android things, who are the Android fans, are probably more likely to like have a visceral reaction to Apple things specifically because of the way Apple presents itself as somehow.
So you can actually see that. Like if you look at our forums over the years, and we're lucky because the Mobile Nations forums go back like 15 years, there was just a segment of the population who were jerks. And they were started off on BlackBerry, and they would go to every other site and say, your Palm Pre sucks, your Windows Phone sucks, your iPhone sucks. And then they went to Nokia, and they're like, your BlackBerry sucks, your iPhone sucks, your Android phone sucks. And then they went to Android, and now they're like, your iPhone sucks, that your bring back BlackBerry sucks. So you try to bring the Palm Pre back, it sucks. I just think that they can't be happy unless other people are unhappy, which is sad. But the one other thing I want to say is that I don't have any I love Apple products. I used to, and Georgia knows this, I used to be all in on Microsoft. I had an Xbox, I had Windows PCs, I had a Windows Palm Jornada that I would take to try to write my book with me when I went to like mobile places.
Did love a Palm.
And it just stopped serving my needs. So now I'm using Apple. But people will often say like fanboy or a biased or even the other way, hater. They'll call someone a hater or a troll because they feel differently. They can't, but they don't have any facts to back it up. So they just want to dismiss you as like a person in an argument. Like I could say, I disagree with you because I think the screen brightness isn't good. I think the cases are cracking. I think even this, like the butterfly keyboards, the failure rate is too high, but they'll just say, oh, you're a fanboy or you're a sheep. And you can't discuss that. That's just them dismissing you as an entity.
Well, right away when you have like discourse, like that's okay. So like right now in society, the ability to have a proper discourse, have disagreements, say something that's controversial, people stop doing because there's going to be all these people that, again, it feels good to just yell at someone, call them names and say something. But right away, an argument is dismissed. If you have to call someone a name, your entire argument becomes dismissed, because you're not able to actually argue from the points. When you hit below the belts or you use an emotional argument or you try to block someone as to being a certain type of person, then right away that means that you don't have a good enough argument to be able to debate with that. There's a really great argument, then use a really great argument and leave all of the personal things out. But this internet kind of anonymity, and you are able to just yell at other people and create a brigade of a whole bunch of other people that are going to yell at someone for it, stops people from being able to say something that might be a really important statement. May not be the statement you want to deal with, but I think that our need for discussion is so important for democracy. We don't have differences in opinions, then there really isn't a democracy that we're dealing with. And that's problematic.
Yeah, and the sort of inability to actually have a conversation about your differences is important. So I've had my eyes opened a lot by going to Google I/O and being surrounded by people who are all in on Android and all in on Google, and really like seeing this great community of developers that I don't deal with on the daily basis because of the Apple sphere that I usually work in. And being able to sort of like just have these conversations with people and say, talk about the things that are great that Google is working on. Like the coders that work on Android are the same type of coders that work on iOS. Mm-hmm. They're just doing it on different platforms, but there's still these incredible human beings that are coming up with these ingenious ways to like forward our technology.
But no, they are white
future.
on the left side and we are white on the right.
Yeah. It's two sides of the same coin. And I'm all about like, stop hating on each other. Like we're all using phones.
Android and Google pushes Apple to make better products and vice versa, which is good for everyone. If there wasn't competition, that would be horrible for all of us. No one wants that. We want competition. We want strong competition so that we get better tech.
And the bigger problem is that in our society, we don't just hate the argument. We hate the person making it, which makes it very hard to sort of progress as people ourselves.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Too tribalist.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Renee and Georgia, I feel like you are not giving me good eye contact in this conversation right now. Oh. I'm thinking a little
is it
FaceTime.
Because the camera is over there.
A little FaceTime eye correction is in
I don't know how to feel about this. So
was that segue really good? Did I do that?
That was really good. That was really, really good. I liked it a lot.
Help me with this because I really don't know how to feel about this.
I do.
And I'm super tech enthusiastic and I love AR. So if people aren't aware what we're talking about, in the new version of the iPhone beta, the iOS 13 beta, and they've been doing little bits of this for a while. Like it started last year. They've just been doing it more overtly now. If you're because the camera is on the side of the phone, if you're holding it in landscape mode, people will look straight and they won't be looking at the camera and it'll look like they're not looking at you, but they're looking at you even though they're not looking at you. So what they're doing now is using ARKit to ingest your face, determine where your eyes are, and then photographically correct them so it looks like they're looking at you. And some people love this because it makes it look more natural and more real. But I'm not certain about a world where I can't trust what I'm seeing anymore.
Yeah. I'll go into a small rant. It will not be a long rant. I'll try to make it really quick. No, this is it's a little bit creepy. And if you feel it's a little creepy, it's because it's a little bit creepy. Hopefully if they do it only because also when we're dealing with a conversation with people, when I'm dealing with something that's very intense for my own emotional needs, people will look away from someone's face. And I think that that's a very important set of nonverbal language cues.
Yes.
And so they're messing with nonverbal language cues against your wishes, which if it is done just very minorly, probably is not going to be a problem. You don't actually notice if someone's looking you directly at the eye or at the forehead or at the nose or at the mouth. We don't really notice that. We notice it if it's like I'm looking off to the sides in a great deal. And usually all of those cues mean something. And we naturally read that, and most people are able to respect that. Someone stares at you directly for long periods of time, it makes us uncomfortable because that used to be interpreted as a threat. So staring at someone directly in their eyes when you might be wanting to give them a slight amount of emotional distance could make people that have social anxiety, people like it creates this dystopian kind of thought.
Or if you've fallen asleep, how do I know that there's not fake eyes?
So,
but if it was correcting like a zit or something, I would still find it morally ambiguous, but at least it's kind of it's not distorting.
I think everyone would be okay with that, yeah.
But I don't know.
So I think I'm going to assume technologically that it's going to be very subtle, and it'll be something like when you are staring at a camera screen or at a phone screen or an iPad screen, not directly at the camera, the AR will just shift up your eyes a little, right? But hopefully. I don't think that this AR is going to do okay, so I'm gonna talk to you the way I might normally have a conversation with somebody. They start saying something and I kind of look up or look down. I get
was Lori lying? Was that the direction for lies?
Yeah, I think she might have been looking somewhere else.
Because it's right for lies, left for memories, or is that the way around?
You do this.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think so. Right as a lie. So I don't think the AR is going to be that intense where when somebody starts talking to you and you kind of look up or look down, I don't think that your eyes are going to stay stationary while you're going like this, right?
Right. And I would assume that you're probably right, that they're not going to like force your eyes to constantly, which would
Well, it's
be
supposed to guess
horribly
your
creepy.
intent. Like it's supposed to
Yes.
figure out when it thinks you're trying to look at the person and make you
Right.
actually look at them.
Yeah.
But
Right.
for me, it's just that I need reality to be real, or I can never trust it.
Yeah.
And that's
well, I
where
think that what they're trying to do is when you are looking directly at the person, you're looking
They're
directly
trying
at
to be
the person.
helpful, but I still find it interesting.
That's my piece, is that, and if it goes wrong, it's during a job interview, or for me, it's when I'm doing it with therapy, even a little bit of emotional distance of me looking somewhere else and not could make someone uncomfortable without me meaning to, because even slight a bits of emotional distance, it might be saying, well, no, I might be still trying to look them in the eyes.
What I don't know is whether they should let you turn it off on your side or their side. Like, should Lori be able to turn off eye changing or not eye changing, or should I be able to say nobody should be able to change their eyes when they're talking to me?
Right.
I would say it should be
yeah.
on your personal side. I should be able to say what I want my vision, what my avatar would be doing.
But I don't want to see your lying eyes. I should be able not to be. So this is
right,
this is another thing that happened
okay.
this week, is that there's this email app, Superhuman, and they are selling like a bunch of. It's really exclusive. You have to be one of the cool people to get in. But what they started doing was email tracking, and I get like an email from Lori, and she'd be able to see when I opened it, how often I opened it, and where I was when I was opening it. And people are saying, well, let's say it's your ex and you're talking about custody, or let's say it's someone who's trying to stalk you, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, she opened it at 2 a.m. She must have been in bed when she opened it, ha ha ha. Or now she's in New York. Oh, like, and there was no way of stopping it. Not only could you not have it send that way, but you couldn't stop it from doing that to you. And that raised this whole debate about do you need consent on both sides?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's that. I think the AR thing, Renee, you actually make a really good point about that. If I want my AR autocorrect or eye correction on, but you don't feel comfortable with that, I want it on because I want you to think that I'm looking directly at you, even if I'm looking slightly down. But you say, I don't like that. I want to be able to know. I just want more reality. I do think I want to be able to control whether or not I use it, but I think that it should be on the receiving end too, that you should be able to control whether or not you receive it. Even if I want to use it, you should be able to turn it off on your side.
Would it cancel George's eye rolls? Like, do I need to know that? Like, I can't tell George's eye rolling now at me.
She's always, just know that she's always eye rolling you. Yeah.
And then it kind of like feeds with the email tracking of when you're in it, then they'll be selling things that will stop people from tracking when you're on it. So they'll think you're tracking, just like a whole bunch of people that their work productivity is being tracked for them. And now there's spoofers for saying you are being really productive. And so it opens up your messages like in the background. Yeah. So it looks like you're working when you're not actually working.
Yeah.
Not that anyone that watches this show would ever do that.
No, because they're working right now instead of listening to us. Yeah.
Of course. No, they're listening and being exceptionally productive. They get both worlds. They're talented to be able to do that. And probably most of them know how to, listen and be able to work without getting caught, hopefully.
So the face prettying technology in the front-facing camera in the when you're taking a selfie on your iPhone 10, iPhone 10s, iPhone 10s Max, and I believe 10R, that we didn't get the choice. That just happened without us being able to turn it off. We still can't turn it off.
People complaining about it.
They're all concerned about the technology and not about the morality.
So with that in mind, AR, eye correction in FaceTime, I'm assuming is a very similar situation, that we don't get to decide whether it's on or off. It's just going to be there. So how, is that okay? Are we all okay with it's just there, whether you want it or not?
I want to know that if I have just a picture of fake eyes on glasses, will it also move them? Will it move them for me so that I don't
experiment that?
I really want to know
if George is actually awake when she's talking to me.
I'm not usually.
No.
I'm usually groggy.
She paints eyes on the
That's
top
what
of her eyelids.
I'm going to be the first person. Well, now I won't be, but I would have been the first person to try that just because, like I want to see them moving around to be able to look like I'm looking at Renee when I'm not. I'll draw really
The
creepy
worst.
eyeballs and
Yeah.
see what happens. Snake eyes.
Are we excited about the idea that Apple isn't speaking or isn't trying to dip their hands into the script and the content of the shows that are coming up?
That was
My
the thing. Like, that was
terrible
the
attempt
hot
at a
reporting,
segue.
right? No, that was the reporting was, oh my God, Apple. I'm gonna do this like pitch meeting. Oh my God, Apple is gonna be giving us notes on these meetings. Apple's gonna be interfering with the shows. Tim Cook said that this was too mean. We can't do this. Oh, Apple's only gonna be making only gonna be making movies for everybody. They're not gonna be doing anything risky, edgy. Yeah. I mean, and Eddie Q did an interview where he's like, that never happened. Tim and I have we hired people who can do that. We don't give feedback on the shows.
It's funny because you can always tell when a company actually has feedback versus if they don't. One is the technology that they'll use. If there's going to be anything that's not going to be an iPhone in it, you'll know that they did not have any say, because why wouldn't they make sure whenever it's a Microsoft, like everything is suddenly, Bing shows up and deals with it. And if you've ever watched the Amazon's show, Electric Dreams, like one of the shows is like on Bad Amazon. It's a really good one. And you're like, oh yeah, they didn't have any input because this is pretty much trashing Amazon. So don't worry about that. And Apple is like, they don't really have to. They don't have to promote. Like,
and Eddie was funny. He's like, just because we watch a lot of TV doesn't make us experts.
No,
yeah.
You're able to just step back. We're going to do this. You go, you run with it. And the directors and the people that they're working with are not people that would easily give up their creative ideals and norms.
Like Tim is showing up on set, like, Jennifer, can you switch into this blouse, please? I think it's way better with your eyes.
They've hired people that they trust and they want them to run with it. And they're people that would not just say, yeah, I want your input and that's okay. They would say no. So you can pretty much. I'm very happy that people can create content and go with it, because that makes more interesting content.
The biggest thing they'll do is that if they don't want like torture porn on their network, they won't hire someone to make Game of Thrones. Like, they'll just pick a different show. They won't like hire Game of Thrones and then say, no, you can't show any violence or nudity. They'll be like, okay, this is not the show we're going to make. We're going to make, was it like the Jennifer Aniston morning show where they're racing?
But that does bring up a very interesting question. Will these be all curated, cleaned though shows that they have like a little bit of like the App Store kind of a thought of, we
like
want
Disney.
the shows to kind of be in this genre.
That's the big question about Disney too. Like, Disney's putting up its streaming network and they're making all the Marvel shows.
Yeah,
but I think you're kind of leading into, I think, something that's very important when you hear this talk that Apple is giving notes on scripts. That's literally what every single movie company does, that because each one has their aesthetic or their idea, or even the bigger ones, they just want to make as much money as they can. So there's always people that are giving input to the content creators as to how they want it to go. So if Apple wants to basically have pretty much mostly PG-13 or cleaner content, then that's the kind of movies that someone's going to pitch them a rated R movie or TV show, and they're going to say no.
Yeah.
They're not going to say, go ahead and make it, and by the way, you can't make it.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And then saying we can't do. I don't, as a parent, I don't mind that. I know that if I go onto a certain set of like channels, that they're going to be channels like shows that I can show to my kids, versus if I watch something on another channel, that it's going to be something that I'm going to have to watch first before I show them. I'm okay with that. But it may not, I do think that it may not be as, like, I'll be honest, I don't know if gore or nudity is actually something that attracts me to a show. It's really great writing and great characters, but it is interesting.
Yeah, and I think Apple isn't going to be the only place you can ever watch TV anywhere ever. So they're not monopolizing what we're watching, and therefore we're somehow oppressed with our, experiences. It's just one streaming service amongst many, and it's either going to appeal to you, Georgia. Like, it sounds like the kind of shows they're going to have is probably going to be perfect for your family. I actually love gore. I love violence. I love
I
watching
do love
horror
gore
films.
violence, just not with my kids. Like I'm a
Right.
Game of Thrones, you know, the Haunting of
Well, like,
Hill
the
House
concern
kind of
is that,
person.
like the concern is broader. Like Disney now owns Fox, and what does that mean for Deadpool? And it probably means that Disney's going to use Fox to release Deadpool and not put it on the Disney label. But Apple doesn't really make anything; they're just buying it. So they would probably just choose to buy Avengers and not buy Deadpool, and someone else would show Deadpool. And like you can have amazing, like West Wing, one of my favorite shows of all time. I think Mark Harmon got shot. Spoiler. I think that was the most violent thing that ever happened on the West Wing. But most of the time it was just people talking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
and I think
great shows.
Yeah, and frankly, I mean, I know that, you know, once again, the Wall Street Journal wrote an article that Apple straight up said that's completely wrong again. But if that article came out and was like, you know, Tim Cook he's got his hands in everybody's business, I'd be like, well, yeah, you know, that's what happens at movie companies. And sure, Apple is not a movie company. They're not, you know, a production company for movie making. They are a you know, technology company that does hardware and software. And right now they're sort of like dabbling in this new industry of entertainment. But to like, you know, Apple, they're so terrible because they you know, they have some notes about too much sex or too violent. Like that's what all movie companies do.
Well, Steve ran Pixar for years, and I don't remember anybody complaining.
Right.
It's a pretty good product.
Yeah. You know, nobody was going around like, oh, that's Steve
I
Jobs.
don't use Pixar as a great
I'm
example.
saying, like, that cannot have been easy for them. Like, even if Steve tried to stay out of it, he'd be going, really? That color blue for the car? That color blue? Really?
I think most of the stuff says that he kind of stayed out of it and did most of the other stuff.
That blue? Really?
I think that with Apple's first foray into TV shows, they're learning to take a little bit more of a step back. They might have like a little box that they want everything to fit in. I think that, Laurie, your comment on like keep it try to keep it PG-13 and see about it is probably about where they're staying, whereas the creative use of what you are going to create then is up to you and you can deal with it. You know, how controversial the subject matter will be interesting to see. But again, you know, we've seen the shows.
That color blue in that car. I just can't believe it.
Well,
I think he was too busy. Too busy for that.
Well, Tim might be too busy to give notes on all these shows.
I don't think that he's
right.
I doubt he's going to be showing up and being like, pitch me.
It's not going to be on set and like taking his notes. I highly doubt that.
Sorry, these leather pants are not the right ones. I'm giving you these mahogany leather pants instead.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know, I think we're coming to the end of our show. Do either of you have any more interesting topics to discuss today?
I like our rants today. I think that was good.
I think we ranted a little.
It's very ranty. It's a ranty show.
I feel so cathartic. I think we catharted, and I feel so cathartic.
Sounds rude, Renee.
Yeah.
I don't think you should do that.
Can you stop catharting?
Peralta.
Georgia Dow, where can people find you?
Well, if you're dealing with anxiety, depression, conflict resolution, let's totally do the boundaries, consequences, and conflict resolution DVDs. You can check out anxiety-videos.com. I am every once in a while on Twitter.
You tweeted about James's new dice app.
I had to send a tweet out to
Dungeons and Dragons dice in your pocket.
It was an amazing app. If you play D&D, totally get his app. It is the coolest app.
You can put it side by side on an iPad.
What is the app called? It's called
Dice by PCalc.
Dice. Yep. Yeah.
Really awesome. Go get it. And James is amazing. So like that works both ways. So I had to say something, but you know, my once a month appearance.
Yeah, you're on Twitter about once a month. So if people want to chat with you, they're gonna have to wait.
Yeah, at Georgia_Dow, you can curate. I try to go through.
What about you, Renee? Where can people find you on the internets?
I am at Renee Ritchie on the Twitter and the Instagram. You can find me at imore.com/vector or youtube.com/vector, where I try to put up videos almost every day.
Almost every day. They're very good, and they're often there's. Well, the day's not over.
No, I gotta go see Spider-Man. I don't have time for a video today. I got real important Spider-Man stuff to do.
Spider-Man takes. You can do a vector on Spider-Man.
Oh,
Can you do movie reviews? Is that a thing? Can you do that?
I could,
on
but I
Vector?
think Google algorithm would downrank me so fast.
Yeah, I think that would. Yeah, you'd have to make a new show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would mess with it. If Micah Sargent were here, you could find him at Micah Sargent on Twitter or at chihuahua.coffee on the internet. I don't remember how to spell Chihuahua. So
I'm with you. That is not happening. Look it up. Google that.
Yeah. Micah Sargent, by the way, is on his way to California right now. And I am not going to be visiting him, even though he's going to be, 100 miles from me. I just happen to be, I'm going to be going out of town this weekend, so I won't have time to see him. So,
no.
Micah, if you're listening, I hope you love the California weather, and I'm sorry I don't get to hang out with you. And if you, if you want to find me, you can find me at Appleholik on Twitter. That's APPAHOLIK, or at Lori Gill at most of the other social things. I'd like to thank Jim Metzendorf for the wonderful job he does at making us sound like we know what we're talking about. Because actually, these conversations, we're just kind of going, bleh, bleh,
Zero
bleh,
sense.
bleh. And he has some kind of smart AI that actually turns us into people having conversations.
It'd be hilarious if he deletes all of the strange noises we made there.
R2D2, where are you?
And I'd like to thank all of our listeners out there. You are wonderful. You're what keeps us going every week, because sometimes I wake up in the morning on Friday and don't want to do it, but I know that there are people out there that listen to us, and we love you. You give us great feedback. You put us in our place when we're saying things we shouldn't. Yeah. And we love having you. And
love staring at the screen.
Exactly. Georgia, are you looking at me?
You will never know.
All right. Thanks, everybody. It's been great.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Georgia, are you looking?